What up? Welcome back to another Best Deck in Blank video series where we just look at a magic set and we cover what I believe is probably like the strongest legendary creature slash commander from the set. It's legendary creature, doesn't have to be a commander anymore. It can be artifacts if it's a vehicle. Either way, brand new set, Lorwyn Eclipsed. We're covering Lorwyn Eclipsed. Obviously, this is a 6 set. Also, only 16 legendaries, which makes choosing a legendary to build around not the craziest thing in the world. I'll quickly go over some of the pretty interesting ones. Abigail can like turn things off, which is cool. Bridget is kind of just Gaia's Cradle on a creature, which is never that bad. Thorn is a Toughness Matters deck. You can probably do some crazy things with the flip side of Erdu Asilu, with having non-token creatures have persist. Obviously, the foot elf mommy is just like there. You got Sultai for elves. You got a bunch of elf stuff. Tam could be a really interesting, like, kind of vivid 5-color deck, but yeah. This week, sorry Sig, I'm not gonna really talk about your kind of whatever. This week, Sultai elves. I mean, I think like once you hit 3-color, you got black and blue, which are probably two of the best colors in Magic if you look at formats like Legacy. And you got green, which is just obviously like the elf package and a lot of really good ramp spells. So that's kind of what we're doing. There's some combos in the deck. Obviously, it's pretty high power, but not like crazy CDH stuff. Either way, Maralen, 5 mana 4/5 flying. When it or another elf or fairy enters, exile top 2 cards of target opponent's library. And then once each turn, you may cast a spell with mana value less than or equal to the number of elves and fairies you control from among cards exiled with Maralen this turn without paying its mana cost. So you can play a bunch of elves, exile a bunch of cards from different players' graveyards, and then pick one of those cards that were exiled this turn and cast them for free. It's kind of what the deck does. Let's go into the artifacts and also resort by alphabet. Obviously, we got ramp, we're in 3-color, Arcane Signet. Chronicle of Victory. As it enters, choose a creature type. Creatures of the type get +2/+2 have first strike trample. Kind of whatever. When you cast a spell of the chosen type, draw a card. This is really good for all the elves that we're casting, because this deck is mainly a green deck, but with support from blue and black. Felwar Stone. I put this in every 3-color commander deck. It's a 2-mana mana rock that is usually will hit all of your colors in 3 colors. Gathering Stone. This is cool. Horn of Calling, or I can't remember. It's 4 mana instead of 3. Spells cost 1 less, and then when it enters and the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card. If it's the card of the chosen type, which you usually just name elf, you can reveal it, put in your hand. If you don't, you can put it in your graveyard, so it has the extra step of being able to filter the bad cards every turn into your grave. Also, it's an uncommon. I think this card is like a really good card to pick up for tribal decks. Lightning Greaves in here. You can give our dorks haste for free, essentially. Soul Ring is Soul Ring. Swiftfoot Boots is kind of just protection, slightly worse Lightning Greaves. Great Henge. Although we're typically not like hard reducing it by 7, it is just when a non-token creature enters, draw a card, which is the biggest concern I had when I was testing the deck. And then 1,000-Year Elixir to, again, kind of just give all our mana dorks haste, and we can obviously pay 1 tap to untap target creature, which is useful. Onto the creatures. Ancestral Statue. We have a combo with Hullbreaker Horror, and if we have Elixir and this on board, if we have dorks, we can just go infinite and infinitely trigger Maralen, infinitely exile our opponent's decks. It's like the big scary combo of the deck, but it's 3 or 4 cards, so it's kind of irrelevant. But yeah, I put it in here last minute because I thought it was pretty interesting. Badgerbolt Cub. This card's crazy, especially when you're playing a bunch of mana dorks. I think this card probably goes in the most green decks right now. Beast Whisperer, cast creature, draw a card. Just another one of those cards that'll help us see more elves every turn. Bloom Tender, taps for each color among permanents you control. Obviously good in 3-color, 3 mana. It's a mana dork that taps for 3 mana. Champion of the Perfect. This is like Beast Whisperer, but we have to exile a elf when casting it. And yeah, when this creature leaves the battlefield, you get the elf back. When you cast a creature, draw a card. Chomping Changeling is a 3-mana 1/2. Technically it's an elf because it's a changeling, and when it enters, destroy an artifact or enchantment. It's just good removal, and it's a green card, so it'll also trigger our commander. Cloud of Fairies is kind of in here for stuff like the Hullbreaker Horror combo. Obviously you can play it and then refresh the 2 lands for free and bounce something. Yeah, it's a good fairy, and it also triggers Maralen. Coiling Oracle, it's an elf. It can also ramp you when it enters with the top card. If it's a land, you can put it on the battlefield, otherwise put it in your hand. It's a 2-mana 1/1 that draws a card and also triggers commander. Elvish Archdruid taps for a green for each elf you control and also pumps all your elves, which is nice. Elvish Harbinger, when it enters, you tutor for an elf, put into your hand, and it can also be a dork. Elvish Mystic, 1 mana with Mana Dork, it's like Land of War Elves. Fairy Mastermind, when an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw a card. Obviously, this is good. Also, it has Flash, so you can play it on an opponent's turn, exile something on their turn, and then if they exile an instant, you can cast that. So, obviously, a little more tech there. Let's say they, I don't know, tutor an instant to the top of their library. You can respond with Fairy Mastermind and, yeah, get it for yourself. Formidable Speaker, one of probably the best cards from the set. When it enters, discard a card, search for a creature, put it in your hand. You also pay 1 tap to untap another permanent, which is obviously pretty good. Fintorn Elves, another Land of War Elf, 1 mana Mana Dork. High Fate Trickster, this just gives all your spells Flash, so you can get more value with your commander by casting things on every turn. Also, you can cast your opponent's exiled cards as though they had Flash as well, so works really, really well with the deck. High Perfect Morcant, or as I previously called her, Mommy Elf Foot, whatever it was. When it enters, or another elf you control enters, each opponent blights 1. So obviously each opponent puts a -1/-1 counter on a creature they control. And you can also tap 3 untapped elves to proliferate. We're playing enough elves where I think this card is probably just good enough as it is. I mean, the more elves you play, the better it gets, but yeah. Hullbreaker Horror, obviously, what I was talking about, the combo. It's a 7 mana 7/8, can't be countered. When you cast a spell, you can return a spell or a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So you essentially have this on board, cast the 1 mana Mana Dork, tapping the other 1 mana Mana Dork on your board to play it. Then you bounce the tapped 1 mana Mana Dork and you just go back and forth with like the 1,000-year elixir, being able to tap them right away. And then yeah, infinite triggers of your commander. Also, this card is just really good. You can counterspell something and then bounce something else from the board to hand, which is good. You don't have to use this for combo, it's just a good control card. Leafcrown Visionary, other elves get +1/+1, and whenever you cast an elf, you can pay a green to draw a card. Again, just a little bit more draw. Land of War Elves, the Goat, 1 mana, taps for a green. List Alana Huntmaster, whenever you cast an elf spell, you may put a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token onto the battlefield. So essentially, whenever you cast an elf, you're just getting double commander triggers with the elf token entering. Morcant's Loyalist, this buffs all your elves, and when it dies, you can return an elf from your graveyard to your hand, which is a nice little recursion. Priest of Titania taps for a green for each elf you control. Selfless Safe Right, this is heroic intervention on an elf. Flash Convoke, so obviously your creatures can all tap to help pay for it for free. And then when it enters, other permanents get hexproof and indestructible. Also, this card, extremely cheap. I highly recommend picking it up for this price. This is a good pickup for that price. Tam, Mindful First Year, another brand new card. Each creature has hexproof from each of its colors, and you can tap it to have target creature you control become all colors till end of turn. Obviously, this is just a really, really strong protection piece. It doesn't trigger the commander or anything, but it's from the set, so I also just decided to include it for that, because I like playing a decent amount of cards that are from the set in the deck. Urborg Elf, this is a Sultai Mana Dork. I didn't know this existed. It's pretty cool. It is 2 mana though, so it's a little bit worse, but yeah. On to the enchantments. Growing Rites of Itlimoc, 3 mana enchantment. When it enters, look at the top 4 for a creature card, put it into your hand. And at the beginning of your end step, if you can control 4 creatures, which isn't too hard with all the elves you're playing, you transform it. It transforms into Gaia's Cradle, but can also just have for a green either way. So slightly better. Kindred Discovery, when a creature of the chosen type enters or attacks, draw a card. Obviously, this is amazing card draw in tribal decks. Reflections of Litjara, as it enters, choose creature type. When you cast a spell of the type, copy that spell. So you just like double trigger all your elves and everything. It's wild. And Heuristic Study, I like to put 3 game changers in the list. I think Heuristic Study was probably one of the better ones because of the amount of card draw you need to sustain all the elves you want to cast every turn. So yeah, this is one of them. Also notably banned in Pauper EDH because this card was a common originally. Pretty cool. On the instance, we got, I don't know, a lot of really good instants in this deck because the colors were in Abrupt Decay. This card's crazy. Destroy target non-land permanent with mana value 3 or less. Can't be countered too, so. Offer You Can't Refuse, obviously a good counterspell. Arcane Denial, another one. Assassin's Trophy, 2 mana, destroy a permanent. Notably, this hits lands as well, so you can hit those pesky Gaia Cradles or whatever your opponents are playing. Court of Calling can just convoke to bring out a really big creature from your deck. Notably, I think usually this probably just hits Hullbreaker Horror if I had to guess, but like more can't if you had a bunch of elves in hand or something else could also be good with this. Counterspell, it's Counterspell. Deadly Rollick, obviously a very good card. If you control your commander, it's free and you exile a creature. Fierce Guardianship, another if you control your commander, it's free, counter target non-creature. Force Negation, we don't play that many blue cards, but I think it's probably still just worth playing because it's a really good counterspell. Go for the Throat, destroys a non-artifact creature. Harmonized Crescendo, draws a card for each creature of the chosen type you control, and it has Convoke, so usually it's maybe 2 mana or less. Heroic Intervention, we're playing the elf version, might as well play the actual instant as well. Infernal Grasp kills a creature, but you lose 2 life. Mirror Form, this is a meme card. I don't think this card is good, but I think it's a very funny card, and it can lead to really funny board states, so it's in the deck. You could have this, and then have like 20 Hullbreaker Horrors. And then cast a spell and just Psych Rift your opponent's stuff to hand, which is wild. Negate, pretty alright counterspell. Obviously not as good as some of the other ones we play, but I'm a big fan of Negate. Pongify, good removal, because we're playing a bunch of black removal, but I don't know, decks like Animar exist and it scares me, so I usually put a Pongify or a Fractured Reality or whatever into my deck. And then Swan Song, it's a good counterspell. Ignoring the lands for now, which is a pretty interesting land base we can go into after. Bloodline Binding, 8 mana Convoke, choose creature type, return all creatures of the chosen type from the graveyard to the battlefield. Obviously this is good because we play a bunch of elves. It's a big late game bomb, or if somebody's playing mill, it can help us. Boomerang Basics, I put this in last minute. I think it's really neat. I know this card's seen playing like standard right now. So you can return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If you control that permanent, draw a card. This can just help us trigger our commander more if we're not drawing enough elves or fairies to play, where we can play an elf, Boomerang Basics it back to hand, draw a card, play the elf again, get another trigger on the commander. Yeah, I think this card is really interesting. Farseek, 2 mana ramp. Finale of Devastation, a little bit of a tutor. We're just playing it similar to Court of Calling. Same thing with Green Sun Zenith. We're just playing them because it's a pretty high-powered deck. Kindred Dominance, choose creature type, destroy all creatures that aren't of the chosen type. Obviously, this is very good when you're playing tribal decks. Nature's Lures, more 2 mana ramp. Raise the Palisade, choose creature type, return them to hands instead of destroy. So pretty similar, but I guess a little bit worse because it doesn't fully get rid of the creature. 3 Visits is more ramp. And then, yeah, before going to the sideboard, or maybe board, let's cover lands. I mean, this is a very expensive land base. Surprisingly, actually, $230. I thought it'd be more, but we're playing all the shocks. The full cycle of shocks has come out, so they're pretty cheap right now. Cavern of Souls, because we're an elf deck. Command Tower, obviously 3 color. Playing the multiplayer lands, I think that's what they're called. Enters unless you control. Oh, these are slow lands. Enters unless you control 2 or more other lands. Same with Dream Cascade. We're playing the lands that check for basic land types, so islands or swamps. Eclipsed Realm is a new one. When it enters, choose Elemental, Elf, Fairy, Giant, Goblin, Kithkin, Merfolk, Treefolk. You can add a mana of the chosen color to cast a spell of the chosen type. Obviously, with enough elves, this is a good card. Orchard, because we're in 3 color. We're playing the Verge cycle. We're playing the Painland cycle. We're playing shocks, but only the in-color shocks. We're not playing like all of them. The basic 3 color, Path of Ancestry, the actual Triome, Yavi Maya, Cradle of Growth, just to make everything a force because of our green distribution in this deck compared to everything else. And then, yeah, tap unless you control 2 or more opponents. It's kind of simple stuff like that. Yeah. It's like a very, I think, optimized, but like still pretty budget land base. You know, you're not playing like OG Duels or Gaia's Cradle or anything like that. Alright, on the maybe board, these are cards that I was originally trying in the deck, and I was like, they're alright, but they're not crazy. Bitterbloom Bear and Bitter Blossom. Both similar things, they just make a fairy each upkeep. but I wanted to, I don't know, go a little more into elves and like combo and stuff, so these were taken out. Elven Ambush, make a 1/1 green elf for each elf you control. Each time I tested the deck, I just noticed I wasn't getting like a stupid amount of elves, like what mono green elves will do or what Lathril will do. So this card's not in the deck. But if you play more cards that make elves or bring out elves from deck, this is obviously better. Elvish Champion gives all your elves +1/+1 Forest Walk. Obviously this also combos with Yavi Maya, which is in the deck. But yeah, we're not doing enough like go wide combat damage to kill opponents with the deck, so it's in the maybe board. Elvish Warmaster makes a 1/1 elf when you cast an elf, or when an elf enters, but only once each turn, which is why it's on the deck. If it wasn't limited to once each turn, this card would be giga broken. Also, I think it would trigger off itself. So yeah, you'd have to say like non-token elf. Lenlenger's Guardian. I'm trying to make this card work, but it's alright. 3 mana, 3/4, enters with a -1/-1. You can remove a counter to counter target non-creature. For, I don't know, it's like a negate, but I guess if you proliferate it, it could be multiple negates. But its controller draws a card, so it's a little bit worse. Imperious Perfect. This is an elf lord, and then it can make an elf, but you have to tap it, so it's not that crazy. Mirrormind Crowned. I guess if the deck made more elf tokens, or made more tokens in general, this card would probably be played. You can attach it to a creature. The first time you make a token, you may instead make that many tokens that are a copy of equipped creature instead. So I don't know, you could just like make a bunch of Imperious Perfects, which is pretty cool, but I'm not playing enough elves. Moonlight Meditation, same thing, except you can also hit an artifact. Springleaf Parade, I think, yeah, again, if you're on more tokens, because it gives creature tokens out of mana of any color, but unfortunately this deck just is not that. Toxic Deluge, just another board wipe. I mean, it'll very easily hit your things more than your opponent's, which is why it's on the deck. You could also alternatively play like Cyclonic Rift, but yeah. Virulent Emissary, again, play more elves. I think this card is good, but it's not too crazy in the deck. But yeah, that's the deck. We'll quickly go over some Rex. I was looking at stuff earlier, but I mean, Alayla is pretty interesting. When you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, make a black fairy, and whenever a fairy deals damage, you can go target player. I think if we were more into fairies, like, you could probably cut out a lot of the elf stuff and commit a little more to doing fairy stuff, and then throw in like, what's it called? The thing that untaps each turn, all your things during each upkeep, and then you just like play on each opponent's turn with all your fairies as well, with like a ley line. Cards like Passeju, probably pretty good. Glenelendra Archmage, you can counter target non-creature spell, so it's actually pretty similar to the one that's in the maybe board right now. Maybe it's good enough to play. Lathril, if you want to do more elf stuff. Beast Within. Deathrite Shaman is an elf. This card's probably good enough, but if the people at your table aren't playing fetch lands, it's not really a mana dork. But yeah, you know, different counter spells, stuff like that. Pachuca Bog, there it is, Seedborn Muse. You could always just throw in like the really good black tutor cards. You know, get your OG duels, your roaming throne to double trigger commander. That's probably really crazy. I should have added this. But yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back next week with something else. I'm not sure what it is yet, but until then, bye bye.